You can't really compete, you can only create. You have to differentiate yourself to have a stronghold in your ideal prospects' minds. This means position yourself differently from your competitors by creating something unique, more or less to yourself, right? This is how you create value, this is how you create great marketing campaigns, and this is ultimately how you get a larger market share of your industry. You can study your competitors to try find gaps in the market, but I would also say when it comes to studying your competitors, try to avoid the trap of thinking that you have a way better product as you emotionally invest when it comes to developing your product. Again, financially and time wise. So it's easier to trick yourself to believing that I have the best product rather than it is to convince your total addressable market or clients that you have the best product. This trap becomes extremely dangerous in like competitive landscapes where it's the barrier of entry is lower as it's really competitive, like extremely competitive. So positional errors when it comes to your marketing and sales, like they will damage you a lot if you aren't, just honest with yourself, honest with your company. So again, it's really developing that when it comes to studying competitors, that level of analysis, okay, of what are they doing, why is it working, how is it addressing customer needs, customer pain points, right? And then being like, okay, how can we develop a great product? And then instead of trying to convince yourself and your company that, hey, yo, you guys are the best, you guys focus on actively building, the best product in your market, in your landscape. And then it's really easy to convince, your clients, there forward, moving on, that we actually have the best product rather than just falling into that mental trap. This is also where being brutally honest about your company's current condition comes in, as there are competitors that you literally cannot compete head in, right? They just have access to way more resources when it comes to finances, talent, and they're already familiar in that market. They already hold majority market share in terms of like the clients. So it's just you necessarily borderline just cannot compete with them. So being brutally honest with your company's capabilities and just current condition and view in the market will help, right? Accepting this and then seeing, okay, what can we build where we are uncontested? What are the products that we can build where we're the best at it? And then really learning to develop your own domain. When trying to identify opportunities to pursue when you're assessing your landscape and current environment of your industry, try to look for spots where the existing product there is low satisfaction, but the needs that that product tries to address are really important to the customer, rather than places where there is high satisfaction for customers, but again, those needs aren't really that important, right? As the former is where you can create a lot more impact and therefore value and therefore, money. So you can focus on how to uniquely position yourself and create value. It is more difficult in the short term to be a trendsetter in terms of creating new products and being innovative when you could instead just emulate the strategies of the leading people in your industries. But it's more beneficial for you in the long term as you build up your own market and you can broaden and expand on your customer base and then build something in which you rule in that domain, in which you're the leader in that domain, that industry, or whatever that market is, rather than just trying to copy and do a little bit of something differently and then hope that you just win market share of whatever industry you're competing in, right? You also don't need to create new markets from scratch. As I said earlier, you can identify gaps in your current market and then create a new sub niche or sub market. For example, there were cars and then there are now electric cars. So instead of just trying to go directly head to head with the automotive giants of that time, people decided to just innovate in that industry and differentiate themselves rather than just trying to emulate the leaders in that industry. Leaders also usually go in their own direction and get people to follow them rather than to try compete for someone else's spot. So when you try directly competing for someone else's exact position, what you're usually communicating to the marketplace is that you aren't necessarily willing to take that leap and that initiative to lead and create something new. And again, with everything as I've said so far, this, like, in terms of directly competing with someone, doesn't, like, you can still make extremely lots of money from this, but as well, when it comes to margins, so then it's going to be like, okay, now people are going to start viewing products on price, and then you guys are going to start competing on price, and then other things. So margins might be lower, but when it comes to basically leading and trying to get that number one spot, you cannot necessarily compete. You can only create. Creating can seem like a big challenge in the beginning. That's also why I understand the approach of taking the industry leading product as a base and then working from there. It is really good to analyze and understand the success of certain products in your industry and those of industries closely related to yours, so that you can understand what customer needs do they satisfy and how so. And then you can use this knowledge to develop products of your own, and will put you in a position where you can primarily focus on creating value rather than competing. I also find it helpful to map out your company's factors when you're creating products, as you can now create products that align with your company's strengths, mission, and strategic initiatives, and then avoid playing into your weaknesses. I have also found that creating can be a keystone habit, which is a habit that over time transforms everything. When you test more and more of your ideas slash products, and then you start building up customer pain points, and then you start learning product development, and you start learning how to position your company in unique places and how to position marketing campaigns for new products, you transform your entire business. You yourself as an entrepreneur also begin to transform as you become more creative and innovative, which allows you to over time create a lot of value, and then again obviously in turn, lots of money. With your focus more and more on creating, your company also becomes more adaptable to structural changes of your industry that can come via technology in terms of disruption, or come via legislation changes. As the IBM CEO Samuel J. Polosimo once said, you either innovate or you're in commodity hell.